morning, everyone. Great to see you, and hello to those who are live streaming from around the world. Please meet a very good friend of mine, Brett Hurt, who is the founder and CEO of data.world and six-time entrepreneur and just an incredibly great guy. So, Brett, thank you for joining us here.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's a real honor to be here. My first time at the Montgomery Summit, and it's been incredibly effective. These one-on-one meetings just back to back.
Yeah, you were busy yesterday.
So it's been a really, really great time and a real honor to be here, and can't believe it's the 20th anniversary, and it's something I've never heard of.
Oh.
Wes, why weren't you inviting me before?
I know. It's a thing. It's hard to get on the tickets here, so.
Yeah.
No, but it's great to have you here. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So just for the audience, and as if you were talking to Nana at Thanksgiving, tell us about your business and where you fit into the ecosystem and what that looks like. What have you been building and why are you building it?
Sure. So you want me to talk in grandmother language?
In grandmother language.
In grandmother language.
Nana at the Thanksgiving table.
Yeah. So the way I would talk about data.world in language that everybody would understand is that data are essentially the facts about your business. And unfortunately, those facts have been very siloed inside of companies because there's been this massive propagation of all types of data platforms, whether it's Oracle in the past, or today it's Snowflake and Databricks and all of these others. And then a massive propagation of all of these analytics platforms like Tableau and Microsoft Power BI and Looker and Domo. And what data has been missing inside of these companies is a layer on top that connects all of a company's employees to the facts about the business, to their data, so that they can do their jobs much more effectively. If they're asking a question like, why did our sales in the Northeast go down last quarter? We provide a platform where they can easily get all the data people together to answer that question, and then there's one URL with all the discussions that occurred, all the data sources that were used, all the visualizations that were done, that everybody has access to forever, that they can then build derivative work on top of. And this is very important and becomes even more important in a environment like this, which is more about efficiency, because to be world-class with the facts about your business means to be world-class in terms of being operationally efficient, higher revenue producing. And we've seen that movie throughout history when it comes to business, even dating back, a long time ago to, my background with starting Core Metrics and Bazaar Voice. One of the retailers I studied when I was getting my MBA was Walmart, and they were world-class about being able to beam through satellites as soon as someone bought something, check the inventory, and replenish, the quickest. And so that was a fact-based decision-making that was kind of automated on the back end. And data has been a huge advantage to companies. When Google gave away TensorFlow, Wall Street was like, what are you doing? And they said, at the end of the day, we're a data company. So it really is the most important asset, but the sad truth is that most big companies operate in way too many silos, and therefore they don't have great command of their facts. My favorite example during the Great Recession, or actually the great, I guess you would call it the pandemic great inflation period now, was Airbnb, where their fifth employee was a data scientist, and they built an internal version of what we do at data.world. I wish I could claim them as a customer, but they built their own internally built data catalog, and it made them incredibly resilient in 2020 because over 50% of their employees use it. And so they're able to navigate this traumatic period and pull off one of the most successful IPOs in history at the end of 2020, where at the beginning it looked like, oh my gosh, are they going to need to take emergency loans just to stay in business? So being world-class with data means to be much more resilient with your business.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much, as we all have seen, a tremendous amount of hype around AI, analytics. I mean, we met when I was running market share at an analytics software company, and this been doing this for a long time, and
Yeah,
so
likewise.
this stuff has been around a while.
Yep.
But the next level is changing. It feels like it feels like we're seeing more and more potential coming to life, and so really, I think that's what you're solving for ultimately, is building a data platform that actually powers this next wave, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is the most ambitious business I've started by far. I've always loved data-driven businesses, though, because then you feel like when you see a customer gain this epiphany where they change their business forever based on facts, you really feel like you're part of business history. Like I felt that at Core Metrics. People were flying very blind when it came to navigating their online business and looking at page views and unique visitors, and we showed them for the first time how effective their advertising was, how effective their site designs were, how effective the tools they were deploying or their merchandising promotions were. And at Bazaar Voice, we showed them for the first time what their customers are actually thinking and saying to each other. And so they knew like why product was flying off the shelves or why it was getting high returns. And both of those became big global companies. But at data.world, we're talking about the facts about the entire business. And we're becoming the most deployed data platform of all time at our customers. We have quite a few of our customers where more than 3/4 of their entire employee base are using our platform. And we're across every industry vertical that matters now, from financial services to healthcare to lots of technology companies. That's actually our biggest vertical because it tends to be early adopters, to government agencies, universities, retailers, CPG, you name it. Lots of consultancies and agencies are also on our platform.
And how do they access it? Is it browser-based or is it?
So it's all software as a service. We come out with over 1,000 releases every year. It's a very fast pace of innovation, and they access it like they would Salesforce.
Yeah.
But it's connected to all of their data assets and data silos that really matter.
So it's real time.
It's real time, and they see it update 2 to 3 times a day, just with how fast we're releasing new versions.
What's the biggest problem that you're hearing being solved? Is it I need to understand my customers better? I need to get my inventory supply chain fixed? I mean, what kind of?
I mean, the number one thing we're hunting is companies with lots of data silos. That's the biggest problem.
Which there are a lot of.
Yeah, it's basically every medium to large size organization in the world, whether it's a company or an agency or a university. They all have this problem. And that's part of the reason just how this space evolved. It led to a lot of fancy language when it comes to working with data, where CEOs would say, I don't know what you're talking about. They would give it to the CIO. And the danger in that is they're essentially giving, they're saying, look, these facts about, what they need to be thinking is these facts about my business are very important for the entire business. Like I want to be world class with this. So I'm constantly talking with CEOs and COOs to convince them that to really transform into a data-driven company is not an option. It's a necessity, and that their competitors, their newer competitors were built from the ground up to be world-class with data. But a lot of these big companies are just so siloed when it comes to working with data. And then one of the biggest challenges we have as a company is we have over 95 integrations. And we've got to be world-class with those integrations, whether it's integrating with Snowflake or Databricks or Tableau or Looker or Power BI. And maintaining that and constantly launching new ones will be one of the first data catalogs to announce pretty quickly that we're integrated with SAP, for example. No data catalogs integrated with SAP. Well, a lot of people use SAP. And we just announced that we're integrated with NetTeasa. And there's lots of legacy infrastructure where there's just pockets of all types of data silos that companies need to basically be able to democratize access to with the right governance features. Governance is very big in the data catalog space. Really, the two biggest use cases in the data catalog space are data discovery and data governance.
And where do you fit in that stack that you were just talking about with, you've got Snowflakes and Databricks and...
Yeah,
CDPs
we actually,
and all these other companies in that space. Where does this fit in, or is it a new layer? Or is it
it's a new
replacement?
layer that sits on top. It's not a replacement for Snowflake or Databricks or anything else. It's really a dramatic enhancer. And they love us because we drive a tremendous amount of compute for them and consumption. One of our largest customers is one of the largest consultancies in the world. I wish I could mention their name publicly here. But they have over 30,000 people on our platform. And they had failed with one of our competitors named Calibra when Calibra was never able to get past like a dozen users
You can name
there.
them.
I can name them. And over 30,000 people now use us at that consultancy. And then that activates their consumption of Snowflake because that's their main platform for using data. So we just presented in front of 275 enterprise sales reps for Snowflake in terms of their North American division. And this is a key thing. Number one thing I'm focused on right now as our CEO is activating more and more partnerships. We hired the head of channel from Matillion, who when he joined Matillion, 0% of their sales were channel. Now it's 35%. And just last quarter, he signed 20 new partners to be field active for us. And a lot of these are companies like Slalom and these kind of consultancies that are helping their customers become world-class with data. And they're always looking for something new to sell and service out there. And we really sit on top of all of these platforms as a layer. It's a new layer. The data catalog category right now is in a definitional phase, and it'll be obvious like 5 years from now what the definition is. One of the things I'm really proud of is that we're powered by a knowledge graph. And a knowledge graph is the most powerful data technology in history. We have 62 patents now and a bunch of others in process. And the big analyst firms like Gartner, Forrester, and GigaOM are now saying the future of data catalogs are powered by a knowledge graph. Well, guess what? We're the only one powered by a knowledge graph. So that's taken a lot of education. But it's because of the superpowers that you have with a knowledge graph, being able to do things like federated queries where you can tie together. You can have a user at one of our customers where they can say, I'm working on this spreadsheet. I want to tie this with Snowflake and Oracle in one query and then democratize access to my team. And then that team can press a button and visualize it in Tableau or anything else. And the reason there are so many users at our customers of our platform is that the managers and other personas really get involved. It's not just the data people.
Yeah, it's not dissimilar to the identity graph, where the identity graph is pulling together disparate pieces of information to help you link to something. Sounds like what you're doing with the knowledge graph is you're linking lots of disparate pieces of data. So there's an ETL process to this, right? I mean,
there is, and we actually power the whole identity graph for Choreograph, which is a WPP company. I can't talk about that publicly. They also just were in our office on Friday, and we announced our AI lab on February 22nd, and we've been working with GPT-3 for about the past 2 years. We were very early in on that, and obviously ChatGPT has put this accessible layer that now they've gotten to 100 million users, fastest app to reach that. But what WPP was demoing to our company in terms of the way through our AI lab, we worked with them to integrate data.world and our knowledge graph into GPT-3 for WPP. It was stunning. And I was giving presentations, back 6 years ago when we were just a 1-year-old company, talking about the future of AI is going to be based on knowledge graphs because it's well understood, well documented data, and it's really exciting that future is finally here now. As an entrepreneur, you're an entrepreneur. Sometimes things happen a lot more slowly than you want them to, but you can envision them, and there's a lot of slogs. I mean, this has been the hardest company for me in my career to build. There's a tremendous amount of IP here. It took us over 3 years to get to $1 of revenue, but now we're at this place where we're in every vertical, and I'm sitting on a company here alongside the best team I've worked with. We're named in the top 3 companies to work for in Austin, with a TAM, which is literally every medium to large size organization in the world. I mean, we could build a bigger than Tableau size business here. So that's super exciting as an entrepreneur. And you know, one of the things that drives me is, you know, I have young kids. One is 18, she's about to go off to college, and one is 13. And this is the year of his bar mitzvah, so this is a big year of family milestones for us. But one of the things I visualize is just how my kids will say, you know, 10 years from now, you know, how did you ever operate in the world with all of these data silos? And you know, what was it like? And I'm going to say, well, it really sucked, and it made companies, you know, really inefficient. And we're at that turning point, I think, in history, especially with this advent of large language models and just, you know, AI gaining steam, where it's going to transform business permanently. And I saw Core Metrics transform business permanently. I saw Bazaar Voice. When we started Bazaar Voice, there were only 3 retailers in the whole US who had customer reviews. Now Bazaar Voice is in over 40 international languages, and there are, I think, over 20,000 customers today. So this is part of what drives me, is that as an entrepreneur, you get to be a small part of business history and just the way things are and become.
Make the future.
And make the future. Yeah, you get to be a small part of creating the future.
Yeah, you know, it does. You know, it does make me think about, like, the reason data silos exist is you know, for oftentimes political reasons, and usually for power. And you know, like, the democratization of data and breaking those silos down means that you have to actually change things organizationally, change incentives and the structures. And that's usually, that's what I found at Market Share. We had to go to the CEO and work down to drive the assimilation of all this data from these silos that everyone was hoarding. Is that, I mean, are you facing that, or you have to deal with that dynamic too?
Oh gosh, I wish I could talk about this case study publicly with name, but it's coming out in like a month.
Just a handful of us here.
But I will tell you that one of our larger customers is a global leader in an industry. I wish I could say more, but stay tuned, because this is something.
Can I guess?
We're pitching. No, please don't. We're pitching to top tier publications.
Yeah.
But they used us for about a year. They had failed with Calibra as well, and thousands of people now use us there all over the world. But their CEO set a goal after a year, because they saw so much operational efficiency, where he wanted the entire company to become very data-driven, and set a goal where 25% of their annual bonus was based on metrics around there, and he worked with their CIO. They beat that goal in 2022. It transformed the organization. This is going to be my favorite case study, because this is the one I can bring to CFOs, COOs, and CEOs and really affect change. I mean, one of the neat things about my career is that prior companies, I was primarily stuck working with the VP of e-commerce at Bazaar Voice and Core Metrics. Sometimes I got to work like with the CEO of Home Depot, for example, or the CEO of 3M at Bazaar Voice, because we were affecting a pretty broad change. But at data.world, we're really affecting the entire company culture. And so this will now be seen as a way to incentivize the entire company to become data-driven, which makes sense. I mean, the ROI is so clear. To be data-driven. You're going to produce much higher revenue, and you're going to be operationally much more efficient. As we talked about, you know, the year of efficiency, as Mark Zuckerberg likes to say.
Well, the flywheel effect kicks in too. Like as you do that, or as a company does that, competitors, they're going to either adapt or die, and then that creates a demand for this.
Yeah.
Given the macro that we're all living in right now, what's changed? I mean, we were at a growth at all costs path, and now we're moving into, you know, more constrained, more efficient growth.
Yeah.
And I know you raised was it last year or 2 years?
We raised $50 million from Goldman Sachs last year. Yeah.
Last year. Okay.
Yeah. And so, not at a crazy multiple, like we did it in a more normal multiple.
2019 multiple. So.
Yeah. So the big thing that's changed, and actually this is one advantage of being 51 and having been an entrepreneur since I was 24, is that I've been able to lead companies through the dot-com bust, through the Great Recession, and now I'm leading one through the Great Inflation. And one of the things that I've seen is that data-driven enterprises, where you're really affecting how operationally efficient a company can become, actually take off even more in times like these. Because of the fact that it cuts out so much of the noise and it focuses people on metrics that really matter. And we saw a lot of crazy metrics that didn't matter in 2021. And deals being done at 100, 200x AR type of multiples, which is a horrible thing if you're an entrepreneur sitting on a company like that, because it essentially means all the stock options are really going to be hard to make worthwhile, and you've got an employee problem and everything else. So for me, it's just meant that I've had to lean in more on messaging why operational efficiency really matters and how data can drive you there, which, again, talking to people in a way where I actually talk to them usually in the grandmother language that we talked about, where I'm like, look, these are the facts about your business. And the most important piece I think I've ever written for this company is my series on the fourth surge of the data-driven revolution, which is on LinkedIn. And it really hammers on why efficiency matters and how data can take you there. So it's just been a minor adjustment in terms of messaging for us. And then, we're doing the same thing as everybody else in terms of being super, super careful with hiring. But
so our time ratio, your revenue to OpEx ratio has changed this year versus others.
Yeah, everybody needs to work harder than they did in a time like this. But that's really a defining moment for you culturally. It makes you tighter as a company, and our average time to fill new hires has gone from 90 days to 45 days.
And who's your best customer, by the way? Who are you targeting? I mean, title-wise, is it a chief data officer?
Chief data officers and CIOs. A lot of times, COOs will get involved as well, but those are really our prime targets. And it is very much kind of a tops-down type of sell, because you're trying to affect the broad company culture, and you're dealing with their most sensitive asset. And data breaches are the biggest fear for companies out there.
Definitely. One quick question is why hasn't competition kept up with this? Is this just a typical they didn't invest in the next gen, or why does this opportunity exist relative to the competition?
Well, sometimes you get really lucky on the competitive front, and our competitors started out, our two top competitors are Elation and Calibra, and they started out on-prem, and they're lucky to get out 3 to 4 releases a year, and we get over 1,000 a year. So just the pace of innovation, it's a very similar story of Salesforce versus Siebel, or Workday versus PeopleSoft, or way back in my career with Core Metrics versus Accrue and NetGenesis. They were worth $2 billion and $1 billion at the time, and we just dramatically outpaced them. So we started, the hardest decision we made was starting with that knowledge graph platform. That is that's how Google's search results are powered, or Facebook's social graph. So it's a very difficult platform to kind of iterate on the back end, but we make it look super easy to customers on the front end. That's where a lot of the magic is.
That's good. Well, I'm excited. We'll have you back next year and hear how things are going.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you all for
Thanks so
joining
much,
today.
Wes. Yeah. Thank you. Yep.